The package arrived on a Tuesday. No return address, just my name written in block letters across brown paper. Inside were old family photos I didn't remember taking and a folded piece of notebook paper with 4 words. Check the basement storage. Taped to the back was a small silver key. The handwriting looked familiar. Too familiar. It was mine. I stared at that note for 20 minutes, sitting on my kitchen floor with photos scattered around me like evidence of a life I couldn't quite recall living. Photos of family dinners where I looked oddly distant. Photos where everyone was smiling except me. Photos where I appeared to be staring directly at the camera, like I was trying to tell myself something. That's when my phone buzzed. Mom's contact photo filled the screen, that practice smile she wore in every family portrait. Nancy, sweetheart, we're having dinner Sunday. Just family. It's been too long. I hadn't been home in 3 months. Not since the last migraine episode that left me confused for days, unable to remember entire conversations. The doctor said stress. I'd believed him. Sure, Mom. What time? 6:30. I'll make your favorite. After she hung up, I looked at the key in my palm. Our building's basement storage units were numbered. Ours was B7. I'd never been down there. At least, I didn't think I had. The basement was humid and poorly lit. B7 was tucked in the corner, behind water pipes and someone's old Christmas decorations. The key turned smoothly, like it had been used recently. Inside were 3 cardboard boxes, each labeled with dates going back for years. The top box contained bank statements. Not mine. Or rather, not the ones I remembered seeing. These showed deposits I'd never made, withdrawals I'd never authorized. Thousands of dollars moving in and out of accounts I didn't know existed. The second box held medical records. Lab results showing elevated levels of something called lorazepam in my system. Dated from every family dinner for the past 2 years. I'd never taken lorazepam. I'd never even heard of it. The third box made my hands shake. Notebooks. Page after page in my own handwriting, but I had no memory of writing any of it. Entries like diary fragments, describing conversations I couldn't remember having. They're doing it again. Put something in my water glass. Marcus needs money for another investment. They think I won't remember, but I'm getting better at pretending to be out while staying awake. Next time I need to record it. Found receipts in Dad's coat. They bought a house 6 months ago. A house. While I've been covering their rent for 3 years. Need to check property records. The migraines aren't migraines. Looked up the symptoms. It's chemical. They're drugging me, then using my fingerprint to access my accounts. I have to stop drinking anything there. The last entry was dated 2 weeks ago. Plan in motion. Mailed myself the evidence package. If I forget again, at least there's a trail. Sunday dinner is the trap. Don't drink anything. Record everything. This time I finish it. I sat in that storage unit for an hour, reading my own words like messages from a ghost. A ghost who was me, but stronger, smarter, angrier. Sunday came too fast and not fast enough. I drove to my childhood home with a recording app hidden in my phone, and a water bottle I'd filled myself. The house looked exactly the same. White picket fence, flower boxes, the kind of place that screamed normal family, which should have been the first red flag. Mom answered the door with that same practiced smile. Nancy, you look thin. Are you eating enough? Dad hugged me with the careful affection of someone following a script. Marcus was already at the kitchen table, scrolling through his phone with that perpetual expression of artistic suffering he'd perfected since high school. Hungry? Mom asked, already pulling out my chair. The same chair I'd sat in for family dinners my entire life. A glass of water waited at my place setting. I'd learned to watch glasses. The water was too clear, too still. Like it had been poured hours ago, and something had been stirred in until it dissolved completely. Actually, I brought my own water, I said, pulling out my bottle. Doctor's orders. Electrolyte thing. Mom's smile flickered. Just for a second. Oh, of course, sweetie. We sat down to eat. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans. Comfort food that no longer felt comforting. The conversation followed its usual pattern. How's work? Still in the same apartment? Marcus has some exciting news. Marcus, it turned out, had another business opportunity. Something involving cryptocurrency and art. He needed an investor. Just a small amount to get started. $15,000. It's a sure thing, he said, not looking up from his phone. I just need someone to believe in me. Dad leaned forward. We've already stretched ourselves thin helping him get set up. We were hoping. They didn't finish the sentence. They didn't need to. This was the pattern. Marcus's dreams became my responsibility. His failures became my debt to cover. I can't, I said simply. The table went quiet. Not the comfortable quiet of a family enjoying a meal, but the sharp silence of people whose script had been disrupted. You can't. Mom's voice carried a note I'd never heard before. Panic, maybe. Or anger. I don't have that kind of money available right now. It wasn't true. I had savings. But according to my own handwritten notes, I'd been saying yes to these requests for years. Money that went to business ventures that never materialized, emergencies that seemed suspiciously convenient, bills that never decreased no matter how much I contributed. Nancy. Dad's voice took on that disappointed tone that used to make me crumble. Family helps family. That's what we do. Right, I said. Family helps family. I reached for my water bottle, unscrewed the cap, and took a long drink. Clean water. Water I'd controlled from source to consumption. 20 minutes later, I started the performance. It began with rubbing my temples. A small wince, nothing dramatic. Then I set down my fork and pressed my palms against my forehead. You okay, sweetheart? Mom's concern sounded genuine if you didn't know what to listen for. Just a headache starting. The same kind I've been getting. Maybe you should lie down, Dad suggested. Just for a few minutes. Yeah, I said, standing up slowly. Maybe I should. They helped me to the living room couch like I was made of glass. Someone draped a blanket over my legs. Someone else turned off the overhead light. And then I closed my eyes and listened to my family plan to rob me. Is she out? Mom whispered. Give it another minute, Dad replied. Marcus's voice was barely audible. How long does it usually take? Depends on how much she drank, Mom said. But she had her own water bottle tonight. She what? Dad's voice sharpened. She brought her own water. Said it was doctor's orders. A long pause. Then Marcus. Maybe it's in her system from other times. She's been getting the headaches anyway. Let's just try, Dad said. Worst case, we say we were checking her phone for emergency contacts. I felt fingers lifting my hand. My thumb pressed against smooth glass. The soft vibration of my phone unlocking. We're in, Marcus whispered. More tapping. The sound of apps opening and closing. Banking app, Mom said. It's asking for additional verification, Marcus muttered. Fingerprint isn't enough anymore. When did she change that? Dad's frustration was barely contained. Try the investment account, Mom suggested. More tapping. Then a frustrated sigh. Everything's locked down. She's got two-factor authentication on everything. Since when does Nancy know about two-factor authentication? Marcus asked. Since she started getting suspicious, Dad said quietly. We pushed too hard with the last request. So what do we do? Mom's voice was getting higher, more panicked. We stick to the plan, Dad said. We have the power of attorney documents. We just need her signature. What if she won't sign? She's been having memory issues. Confusion. We have documented medical evidence. If necessary, we can have her evaluated for competency. I kept my breathing steady, kept my eyes closed. But inside, something that had been sleeping for years finally woke up. They put my phone back, arranged themselves in their chairs. Waited. I gave them 10 more minutes, then opened my eyes and sat up slowly. Feel better? Mom asked. A little, I said. These episodes are getting weird. I feel like I'm losing time. Maybe you should see someone, Dad suggested. A specialist. Maybe I should. I stayed for another hour, playing the part of the confused, compliant daughter. They brought out documents for me to sign. Something about updating my emergency contacts, they said. Making sure they could help me if the memory issues got worse. I signed everything. With a smile. What they didn't know was that I'd replaced the documents in their folder with blank papers before dinner. The real power of attorney attempts were safely photographed and stored in a cloud account they'd never find. When I finally left, Mom hugged me tight. Take care of yourself, sweetheart. We worry about you. I know, I said. I'm lucky to have family who cares so much. I drove home with the recording playing through my car speakers. 43 minutes of my family discussing my finances, my mental capacity, and their plans to have me declared incompetent. But I didn't go to the police station. Not yet. First, I called the private investigator whose business card was paper-clipped to my notebook entries. Apparently, past Nancy had been thorough. His name was David Chun, and he'd been working my case for months. He had property records showing my parents owned 3 houses. Bank statements proving they'd been using my social security number to take out loans. Medical records indicating a pattern of drugging spanning years. We've been building this case carefully, he said when I met him at his office the next morning. But we needed you to remember. To be present for it. How long have I been not present? It's hard to say. The memory issues started about 4 years ago, right after your grandmother died. That's when the financial irregularities began. My grandmother. I had vague memories of her funeral, of feeling like something important had been discussed that I couldn't quite grasp. She left you money, David said gently. Quite a bit of money. Your parents convinced you that you'd misremembered the will reading, that the grief had confused you. The room spun. How much money? $200,000. It's been sitting in an account they control, supposedly managing it for you while you were emotionally unstable. I laughed. Actually laughed. I've been covering their expenses with my salary while they had my inheritance the entire time. It gets worse. They've been using your credit to finance their lifestyle. The house purchases, Marcus's failed businesses, even a vacation rental property. You're listed as the primary borrower on everything. So I'm responsible for their debts. Not if we can prove fraud. Which we can. 2 days later, my phone started buzzing. Mom, Dad, Marcus, all calling within minutes of each other. I let them go to voicemail. The messages were panicked, angry, confused. Nancy, the police were here asking questions about financial fraud. What did you tell them? You need to call us back immediately. There's been some kind of misunderstanding. This is insane. You're destroying the family over money. I texted back once to all of them. The police have the recordings. They have the bank records. They have everything. Then I blocked their numbers. The investigation moved quickly once it started. Financial fraud, identity theft, elder abuse, conspiracy. The prosecutor called it one of the most systematic cases of family financial abuse she'd ever seen. They'd been drugging me with lorazepam for over 3 years, timing it with family dinners to create opportunities for theft. The memory issues weren't stress or medical problems. They were intentional. Marcus had been the mastermind, apparently. The charming artist with expensive tastes and no moral compass. Mom and Dad were willing participants, convinced that my money was their money by virtue of biology. The trial was surreal. Sitting in a courtroom while my family's defense attorney argued that they were just trying to help me manage finances, I was too unstable to handle myself. That their actions came from love, not greed. The recordings said otherwise. They pled guilty eventually. Marcus got 2 years. Mom and Dad got 18 months and probation. All of them were ordered to pay restitution. Though most of my inheritance was gone, spent on their lifestyle and Marcus's failed ventures. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt hollow. The memory gaps filled in slowly over the following months. Conversations I'd forgotten, decisions I'd made while drugged, years of my life that had been stolen as surely as my money. But the strangest thing was how normal everything felt afterward. I'd expected trauma, anger, some kind of dramatic emotional reckoning. Instead, I felt like I'd finally woken up from a long, confusing dream. I moved to a different city, changed jobs, started over with the clarity that comes from knowing exactly who not to trust. My new apartment has excellent locks and a security system. I drink only from containers I've opened myself. I trust my own memory. Sometimes people ask if I miss my family. It's a complicated question. I miss the idea of them. The version I thought existed before I learned the truth. But missing an illusion isn't the same as missing real people. A few months ago, I got a letter forwarded through my lawyer. It was from Marcus, written from prison. He wanted me to know he was sorry. That he'd convinced Mom and Dad that I wouldn't mind helping the family. That it had gotten out of hand. I read it once, then shredded it. Some apologies are too late. Some damage can't be undone with words. But here's what I learned. You can survive discovering that the people who were supposed to love you most saw you as a resource to be exploited. You can rebuild after having your reality systematically demolished. You can trust yourself again, even after being convinced you couldn't trust your own mind. The perfect daughter they created no longer exists. In her place is someone who asks questions, demands answers, and never, ever drinks anything she didn't pour herself. I'd call that a fair trade. So what do you think? Did I handle this the right way? Or should I have tried harder to save a family that was systematically destroying me? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories of survival and justice.